And a huge number of people would go from the King's Road off down to Glastonbury, and quite a lot of them did see flying saucers, in fact. Look out your window, I can see his light. We can sparkle, we may land tonight. Don't tell your papa, he'll get us locked up in the fright. Here we have ignition sequence start. There's a star waiting in the sky. He likes to come and meet us, but he thinks he's so alive. There's a star. Good morning, Washington, Baltimore, Laurel, Columbia, Annandale, wherever the hell you are. That was a really cool thing on. I caught that on WETA last night. An old BBC documentary on whether UFOs and aliens have come here, and they used a lot of really cool music. There was David Bowie. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. One of my favorite albums of all time, Ziggy Stardust. And I was watching this thing last night, and I'm going, I'm sitting there watching Top Gear, and I'm going, gosh darn it, it's another rerun. There's no new Top Gears, right? It just reruns and reruns. So I flipped around, and I go, my goodness, there's this cool documentary on Channel 26. And, I love Ziggy Stardust. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. This ought to be getting some more. This ought to be getting some airplay on 105.9, by the way. Some other cool music in the documentary last night was the Two-Way Army and Gary Newman, Our Friends Electric. That is one hell of a song. I love all these kind of spacey songs. Kevin Spacey songs. Let's see if you can hear where that clip is. It's really cool.
Comic strips such as Dan Dare and so on would really visualize them to be.
Here it is.
Throughout the 1970s, official UFO sightings continued, but were largely unremarkable. That is, until the most famous, or infamous UFO sighting in Britain, which took place during Christmas 1980, close to the twin US air bases at Bentwaters and Woodbridge in Surrey. The bases are bounded by Rendlesham Forest. At almost midnight on Christmas Day, US servicemen on duty at one of the perimeter fences reported seeing strange lights deep in the forest. One of the security policemen on duty that night went to investigate.
I love it. I just love it for the Gary Newman music, man. All right, let's power that down, plop, and I'm going to turn DCRGB into UFO. We're going to all be UFOs. Ah! Well, anyhow, I woke up last night, middle of the night, 3 in the morning, and I was thinking about Rob Pegoraro. My brain is going a mile a minute about Rob Pegoraro. He's the technology columnist who's worked for the Washington Post for 17 years or whatever. I love his column. He really writes it from a perspective of the everyman. He's not writing it to kiss ass to a bunch of people in the biz. He's writing it as an ordinary Joe would write it, basically dealing with technology and, how, you get that new device and it doesn't work right. Or you get that new computer and something doesn't work right. It's always the way it works. You hook up the new TV and you can't figure out how to do something. It's like that's what happens with everything. And it's the frustration we all have. And he is a good man and a good writer at reporting on that. And then as we reported at DCRTV a couple weeks ago, Rob is just suddenly, goodbye. The Washington Post says goodbye. And I'm thinking, why do they let him go? He's one of their better writers. And of course, the Washington Post, is becoming a cheapskate paper. They're letting a lot of their cheaper writers, there are more expensive guys that have worked there a lot of years ago, like Howie Kurtz and Michael Wilbon and all that. And I'm thinking, why'd they let this guy go? And when you look back at what he's written, Rob was right on the money and, didn't take any prisoners in his columns. He criticized Comcast. When a lot of their stuff, a lot of this merger thing. He was one of those guys that actually turned off his cable TV and went, internet only. Which is something, which in a way is kind of daring for a major mainstream media tech columnists to do. You have to look at the Washington Post. One of their biggest advertisers, some of their biggest advertisers are the tech companies, Verizon's Fios, Comcast and their Xfinity service. And when Comcast was merging with NBC, the last year or two, they would take out huge ads in the Washington Post, big full page, full color ads telling you how wonderful the universe is now going to be now that Comcast and NBC are together, da-da-da-da-da. And all the cell phone companies. And Rob wrote about the real world out there. He said, this cell phone company is offering a crappy software on their thing, and this one has too many ads on their service, and this cable company. He was brutal. He was brutally honest with a lot of his stuff. And I can just imagine somebody like Comcast or Verizon coming to the Washington Post ad department saying, we like your paper and all that, but we really don't like Rob's columns. Now, I'm not saying any of those companies did that because I have no proof of that. I don't have any idea. But, it wouldn't surprise me if the word got out that, hey, Rob is not making a lot of our huge advertisers happy. And maybe that was a factor in seeing him go. I don't know. Honestly, I can't say it, but it wouldn't surprise me. When the Washington Post talks about gutsy journalism, and they do have some gutsy journalism over there, you're writing against, you're reporting about the federal government and the Defense Department and foreign countries and international stuff and politics. You don't really have to worry because those guys aren't your advertisers. You don't have to worry about offending Mitt Romney or the Egyptian government or, the Defense Department because they're not really advertising in your paper. But who's advertising with you is, these cell phone companies and Macy's and Kaiser Permanente and all these other things. And you really have to wonder if, we're going to – here's the deal. Kaiser, my HMO, okay? I have nothing against them. They're a wonderful company. But they do hit you with a massive premium hike every year. And I never, ever see an article in the Post about, hey, Kaiser's jacking up its rates 25% again this year. If a government were doing that, passing that on as a tax, you'd see it all written up. And why? Because Kaiser is a huge advertiser. I really wonder, and I'm really wondering if the Post isn't really kissing ass to a lot of its advertisers, that advertisers buy a free ride. That Comcast or Verizon knows that if they buy a lot of ads in the Post, they're going to get a free ride editorially. And part of that free ride editorially might be saying goodbye to people, great writers, great tech writers like Rob Pegoraro. Again, I am saying I have no proof of that. This is just my crazy mind spinning out there in the universe. But, you just got to wonder. The Post is really turning into a marshmallow of a paper. Look at today's paper today. Front page, poll, Virginia evenly split on gay marriage. The Washington Post took a poll of Virginia voters the other day, and they've already run it into about 4 or 5 stories. One poll, 4 or 5 stories. You go to the Metro section, and there's another. The poll is on the Metro section. Optimistic about poll. We'll do one poll and we'll run it off into half a dozen different stories. The other day, the Washington Post reported that George Allen and that Tim Kaine, who are going to be running for the Senate, are tied. Well, you say that is a relevant story, right? Wait a minute. They're not even running this year. The election is next year. I was thinking, okay, the election is going to be in November, right? No, wait, it's not. The Senate election is in November 2012. So the Washington Post is doing a poll on an election that is it's like a year and a half away. It's like saying, let's see now, okay, the next presidential election is in 2012. Who could be running in 2016? Who could be running? What if Obama wins or what if Obama doesn't win? Who's going to be the Democratic, whether Obama wins or not? Who's going to run in 2016 for the race? It's just getting nutty. So anyhow, Gary Newman, play some of this on 105.9. Play some of this on 105.9, damn it. Surf, cool guy. I love Surf. A great interview with Surf. Check it out on dcrtv.com. We linked to it in some of yesterday's news boards. Great Surf. Surf is a good guy. Surf is one of those guys. He's a wonderful guy, but he never, ever, 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 ever talks down his employer, which is good because employers like that. But I'm sure Surf is biting at the chomps a little bit, saying, "Geez, I wish I could play some of this cool music instead of Alice Cooper every 5 minutes." Interesting interview with Ted Nugent today on WMAL's morning show. Entertaining guy, I have to say that. Not a talented. I think he's a good musician. I'm not into his type of music, but he's an interesting guy. I do like Michael Steele paired with Brian Neiman. I think that's a really good combination. If WMAL hires Michael Steele permanently, I think that would be a good deal for their morning show. Michael Steele, Brian Neiman, they have good chemistry. I like them. I think they would make a great permanent morning show. I think WMAL. I hate making quotas, but WMAL needs some more color on the station. And Michael Steele, of course, is an African American, but he's a funny guy. He's a conservative, but he's not a rabid conservative. He's got a sense of humor. I think he would be an excellent token black person for WMAL. I think he would be a wonderful mix for the morning show. I think he would be great on WMAL. The guy I can't stand is Joe DeGenova, man. I don't know. Joe DeGenova, every time I hear Joe DeGenova, I go, I go into a seizure. But I do like Michael Steele. So of all the morning guys I've heard, I also like Major Garrett. Major Garrett would be an excellent choice. Michael Steele would be an excellent choice if they're looking for a permanent host on WMAL. So there. Of course, it won't happen because I said it. Whatever. All right, folks. Dave TV for the 10th of May, 2011. I may be back later with some ratings information if I get my little grubby little hands on it. Otherwise, you have a good one, and don't forget to stay tuned.